Imagine owning real estate that works for you while you sleep without any of the hassles or the typical headaches. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, Darren up here with the Up Investor Network, and we're here to transform that dream into reality. Our mission is simple. We want to ensure that your real estate investment is truly turnkey by minimizing your involvement, but maximizing your returns. Now, let me be perfectly clear here. Our partnership is not about handing you another 9-to-5 job. It's about building an asset that offers robust returns with minimal fuss. Now, how minimal? Let's think about maybe 20, 30 minutes each month. How does that sound? Now, what is our secret to this awesome opportunity? Well, we have a dream team already in place, which includes a robust property management system. And through our careful selection process, we have teamed up with what I know to be one of the top tier state license management companies in the greater Houston area. Now, all of this has already been done for you for the sole purpose of making your dream as an investor become a reality. Now, with our due diligence and our groundbreaking approach, you're not just investing, you are experiencing the future of a stress-free real estate investing, and the profits are just going to be flowing into your bank account every single month. But you know what? I do not want you to take my word for it. As a member of our dream team, I am excited to introduce to you Cameron Tope of Emerson Property Management. Now, he's here to peel back that curtain on how we are pioneering a new era of real estate investing. Now, stay with us until the end to discover an innovative strategies that Emerson uses, which I believe could redefine your understanding of passive income as you know it today. Now, trust me, you do not want to miss this. So let's get the show on the road. Without further ado, Cameron, how are you doing today, my friend?
Great, Darren. Thanks for the intro, man. We got a lot to live up to.
Well, I know you can do it because I know when we get together and we talk, man, every time I talk to you about property management, I learn something new. As a realtor, I don't have to know everything that you do as a management company. But man, every time I get together, it makes my knowledge base more valuable. And I always learn something new. So I am ready to jump in. Tell us a little bit about the background of Emerson Property Management.
Yeah, so we started unofficially about 10 years ago. I was buying properties in Texas. I started out with a house hack and then just kept snowballing. And in 2017, I was buying a property about every 6 weeks. And then I had a new problem. It wasn't the actual asset. It was, how do I manage these? And I was trying to find a management company and it just wasn't working out. But it was either they fee you to death or, the lack of accountability and the lack of attention. So, I just said, I'm going to do it myself. And then I started getting friends, family, got licensed. And now we manage just about 150 doors across Houston. We've won Better Business Bureau awards. We've been named, top property manager in Houston for 3 years running. It's just been a great experience. And we're members of the National Association of Residential Property Managers. We have all the designations, all the licensing. And we build it for the owners, not for this is all we do full time. It's not like I was doing something else and dabble in this as a side hustle. We've got people with over 40 years of experience on the team, and we really just take a lot of passion and pride in managing that property, because for a lot of people, Darren, that's why we're doing this. It's like this is their wealth creation. This is putting hundreds of thousands of dollars at risk. And we're here to reduce that liability, reduce that risk, and make that thing produce profits for you for years or decades to come.
And it's great that you say that, because again, the investors that we're attracting, like you said, they are putting their money at risk and they want to make sure that this is managed correctly. And that is everything that you said there is the sole reason that I picked y'all as the property management team for the Investor Network, because we want people that are serving people. We don't want people that are serving a corporation that are doing it. And the fact that you're basically the owner operator, the chief bottle washer, whatever needs to be done, you're going to see that it's done, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we're not multi-state. We're not multi-city. All we do is Houston. That's all we focus on. And that allows us our processes and systems are all Houston specific. We're not trying to do this in California and Florida, anywhere else. Houston, Texas, we own that area, and we just want to be the best at management in that area.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I know you had kind of touched briefly in your introduction there. You're talking about the liability and the legal risk and everything. Can you dive into that a little more and just share with the investors how you're going to basically mitigate a lot of that for them or their worries?
Yeah, so I mean, you start at the front end of the tenant selection. This is usually one of the bigger areas of liability, right? You have 9 protected classes within HUD, and you want to make sure that you're screening the tenants all the same way. Then you go into the safety at the property. So now you're actually the management. Are you responding to maintenance requests? What requests do you have to respond to per the Texas property code in a certain time frame? And then at the end, you have the security deposits. So now you have to take that tenant security deposit and make sure that you do the deductions in a proper way, meeting also timelines to make sure that you get that back to them, in that time frame, and with all the paperwork and proper, receipts, invoices, and documentation. So those are kind of the 3 areas. But starting at the beginning, we have a standardized screening process. So we go through and we publish this on the website. Anybody can go look at it, and we just go through the same exact way with the tenants. We do a background check. We do a credit check. We have several things that we contact for their employment. We have to make sure that they, have a job. We want to make sure that they can pay rent. And through that process, we have less than a 1% eviction rate. I know we'll talk a little bit about evictions later, but through that robust screening process, we have less than a 1% eviction rate. And then when you get into the property, Texas property code governs how you manage properties in the state of Texas. So we do a property code inspection at the beginning of each tenancy. So we go in, we make sure the rekey's done, we make sure the property meets those codes. So heaven forbid, if there ever is a fire or a break-in or something comes up, that's all, your liability has been reduced, because if there is a fire and they discover that no one ever tested the smoke detectors, or they're older than 10 years old, you've had the house for a while and the smoke detector never chirped, you could still be liable if the smoke detector is over the 10 years old. So there's just so many things like that that come up, that we do all that at the front between each tenant, as well as during the annual property inspection, to make sure that this property is meeting Texas property code, and again, just reduces the liability that if something does happen, that it's going to come back to the owner. And then the last piece is the security deposits. So we do about 300 pictures, depending upon the property size, 200 to 350 pictures at the beginning of the move-in, and then when the resident moves out. And that way we have a clear documentation of what the property looked like when they moved in, and when they moved out, what was normal wear and tear versus what is damage that we can charge against a security deposit. We also hold those security deposits in a separate trust account to make sure that we never touch those, and make sure that they're properly accounted for at the end of the residency. And then we have, like I said, we have all that documentation. We've had tenant disputes, and property management is one of the most litigious parts of real estate. And then security deposits are one of the most litigious parts of property management. So we have all that documentation. We do have tenants that come back and dispute some of the charges, but we have always been able to resolve that when we go, here's the timestamp pictures, here's what it looked like before, here's what it looked like after, and it's all handled. And we use a third-party company for that, so there's no conflict of interest for us. So when the tenants say, well, you just want to charge this, or the owner just wants this. No, this is a third-party company that's all they do, that's all they specialize in, and they have no financial interest. So again, we're reducing our liability by having a third-party company do that. And that really, those three aspects, that really covers the majority of the liability. Obviously, there's other things that come up, but those are kind of the main 3 aspects that, where you can get in trouble with owning real estate.
Well, I've been sitting here taking notes while you're talking about that, because again, like I said, I learned something new every single time, and I did not know that about you guys using that third-party company for the security deposit, because I do have clients that are landlords themselves, and they always try to ask me that question: how can I get them to pay for this after they've moved out because this was destroyed? And it's like, I am not a property manager. I can't give you that thing, but you're going to take that on yourself and handle that for our investors that are in that. So that is really awesome that you guys do that. Now, I know you touched on evictions and property damage kind of in that last thing. So tell us a little bit around that, how that happens if you do have to evict some, or you do have some major damage to the property?
Yeah, so evictions, they scare a lot of initial owners. They scared me when I first started. I was like, I never want to go through an eviction. But we've done it so many times now, and we have such a standardized process. And Texas is a lot more landlord friendly. Um, but it's one of these things. It's like it's scary until you understand all the steps and you've gone through it. Then it's like, oh, that kind of weight goes off your shoulders. Now you have to go through it, which can be super, super expensive. And if you don't know what you're doing, can delay and take months. I mean, you've heard horror stories, 6 months, 12 months of tenants staying in a property without paying rent. So we handle a lot of this upfront, is what we believe, by getting the right tenants in there. I mentioned the tenant qualifications and the tenant screening that we go through. It's very, very robust. Some of the tenants are like, God, they're asking almost for everything but my firstborn child here. And it's because once we get them in there, it might take some time to get them out. And so we want to just eliminate all that up front. And by doing that and having that robust screening process, we have less than a 1% eviction rate. And we also offer eviction protection. So for whatever reason, at any time of the tenancy, we have to evict a tenant, we will reimburse the owners up to $1,000 in court costs and eviction costs. So that way, even if you're still like, oh, I'm a little unsure, we go through it so frequently and we believe so much in our product that we'll say, hey, listen, we will back you up and pay up to $1,000 for that. So we put our money where our mouth is in that sense.
Well, that's even good to know. I always like free money. I always like free money. Now, I don't want an eviction on my property, but it sounds to me like you've got it covered when we do that screening up front. So that is critical to me. I mean, at least from my standpoint. And I wouldn't know how to screen anybody, to be honest with you. I really wouldn't know. Well, I know what they always ask for, but again, I wouldn't want to be in that situation.
Yeah, and we've screened, Darren, like you say, that's all we do is property management. You as a realtor are very good at buying and selling and handling that side of it and the relationships and knowing the ins and outs of the contracts. And it's just like, this is all we've done. We've screened thousands and thousands of tenants through this process. So that's why we're confident in offering that and putting our money where our mouth is. I mentioned before that we do the 300 pictures. So we also, about 300 at the beginning of move in and move out. And then, we have that annual inspection that we do right before renewal. So we get kind of a gauge of the condition of the property throughout the tenancy. We notice, we go in and we're like, oh my gosh, there's 20 people living in this house. We'll send the proper lease notifications or lease violations for that. But we also want to make sure that the residents can submit maintenance requests and whatnot. So we want to handle all of these issues that come up to make sure that the tenant doesn't have a leg to stand on, but we have everything done through and documented on our portal. So as soon as a tenant submits a maintenance request, this comes up from time to time. We hear this a lot with owners that manage their own. A tenant submits a request or says, hey, I want you to fix something. The landlord didn't do it. They haven't done anything. It's been weeks and this hasn't been done. In our system, it is timestamped. We have it exactly when that resident submitted and when we have exactly when the Emerson team member responded. And then we have, when the vendor goes out, we have all that documented and scheduled. And our KPI for handling maintenance is 4 days. So if a tenant submits a request on Monday, we have that troubleshot, received additional information, whatever else we need to get from the tenant. And we'll troubleshoot a little bit if we know, like, hey, check the breaker or check your filter. And then dispatch the vendor, and the vendor completed within 4 days. That's our goal. So by Thursday, they would be done. That keeps us out of issues with the property code. 7 days is usually the figure that's thrown around. And the tenant has 24/7 access to our portal. So if they ever say, well, they didn't do anything, so I'm going to withhold rent, and then you go into that whole issue, they can't do that. We have everything timestamped, everything is documented, so that prevents that whole side of an eviction of, well, Your Honor, they didn't handle anything. We have all that documented.
Well, that's good, because again, we're talking about lowering your risk all the time through this, which, I'd kind of like to jump in. And when you were talking about having to do the repairs and the maintenance and like this, I said, how do I as a landlord, or if I'm an investor and I go with the Up Investor Network and we've got this turnkey solution, How is it handled if there is a repair, and what's the cost to me, and how does that affect me, and how does that process work all together?
No, it's a good question, Darren. So anything, we always want to go out and do the work. So if a tenant's like, hey, there's a plumbing issue, we'll handle it though. We don't want tenants doing plumbing. We don't want to create $10,000 or $15,000 issue because a tenant they thought they could snake a sewer line or something, or start pulling pieces out, and we go in there and now there's a massive problem. So we want to go and do that, and then we use the lease and the Texas property code to say, okay, this is a charge, this is a tenant damage. This is not normal wear and tear. This has been something that the tenant damaged. So then we go on the tenant's ledger and put that on there. So as an owner, under $400, we'll handle it based on our discretion. Over 400, we'll contact the owner and say, hey, just want to make sure we have a hot water tank out. We need to get in there and fix this. So you're notified of larger expenses, and you're not worried about the little, like, hey, there's a garbage disposal that went off. There's, a blind that's broken or something like that. We handle those. Now, you still see all those documented, so you can log onto your 24/7 owner portal and see all of that information. And again, you as an owner can see all the timelines as well. We upload pictures and upload the invoices. You get all that documentation. So you're not bothered by it, but anytime, let's just say you're sitting around, one afternoon, you're like, hold on, let me check this out. You can log in and check everything. And you can get in there and make notes or comment and to the Emerson team, but you'll be able to see all that. And it just, one of our core values is transparency. And that's why we have a very simple fee structure, but also why we do all this with in an owner facing way. We're not trying to hide anything. There's some companies, we don't have any maintenance in-house, so there's no conflict. Like, I'm paying a payroll for a guy, it's totally, not a financial incentive, I guess, is for lack of a better term. We want to take care of the property, and we don't want you to feel as an owner like we're getting something out of that. We want the tenants to feel great. And, it's kind of a long-winded answer, but we also send tenant surveys after each maintenance request. So every single maintenance request, the tenant gets a survey. And right now we boast a 4.7 out of 5. And that we use that because if we have a vendor who's maybe not doing what they're supposed to be doing, we want to know about that. We know so much, we have the pricing, we can understand that, but if they're being disrespectful to the tenant, we have all of our vendors rated. They have all their ratings. So we average a 4.7, but when we see this vendor's getting a 2, a 2, a 2, we get rid of them. And we keep the vendors that have a 4.8, 4.7, 5.0, and we continue to give those business. So as an owner, most owners, what we have never stepped foot inside the property, Darren. They don't have a maintenance crew in Houston. They don't have a plumber or electrician that they trust. And we've gone through many, many vendors, but we handle all that. And we're constantly adding good vendors to our network, and we're constantly getting rid of them. So we're doing that on your behalf. You don't have to build a team. We have that team for you.
Yeah, and that's the purpose I contacted you, because when we had our conversations in the past and all these things that you shared with me, I felt it was very important not only to just bring it to our investor network, but anybody else that may be watching this that needs a good property management company, reach out to Cameron directly. If you've already got your properties and everything that's that, but if you need to acquire properties, obviously you're going to call me first. Okay, we'll find you that property, and then we've got the turnkey solution where Cameron just comes right in there on the backside. Now, when we were talking about the repair cost and all of that other stuff, now I know when I go and I show a rental to a tenant, a prospective tenant, and we're going through a property that I've never even been in, and they'll always ask that question, hey, do you think the landlord will fix that? And I'll be like, well, the property's been sitting here vacant for 2 months. They've had 2 months to fix it. I would probably say, no, they're not going to fix it. We can ask them to fix it, but it doesn't mean they will. Do you still want to lease the property if they don't? Because we don't want to waste the time going through the application process. But it sounds to me like you're really covering all those problems for that landlord or the owner of that property, so they don't have to worry about not being able to get that lease because of a little item. So that kind of transitions me into ask, how do your properties lease, release? How are the prices on those compared to the market? Because I know I call you for comps now because you have a better feel on the rental market than I do if I happen to have to list one. So how do you handle that for what we would call the turnover cost? Because nobody wants any turnover cost in that. How does that look in the Emerson property model?
Yeah, and I want to say that's, Darren, it's a great point. The vacancy is one of the secret cash flow killers. It will eat you alive. 2 months of vacancy, just 2 months, is 16.6% of your annual rents. Or if you're looking at $2,400 a month rental, that's almost $400 a month that you've lost over the course of a year. So we want to get properties leased quickly. And I mentioned on the front end, we have a robust screening process. We do not have such a rigorous process that we can't get properties leased. We're still leasing properties in under 30 days. And we offer a 30-day lease guarantee. So if we don't lease that property from the time it's listed to the time we have a signed lease with security deposit, if that's more than 30 days, if that's 31 days or more, we will credit and waive 2 months of management fees. That's how much we believe and how quickly we want to get these things leased, because we're on the same side. We want to get that. A vacant property is a liability for everybody. We're walking it every 2 weeks to make sure that the water shut off. We don't have, we had that horrible Houston freeze several years ago. And if you had a vacant property and you left the water on and a pipe burst, or the heat got shut off because the electric went out and a pipe burst, it might be sitting, flooded for, weeks, or, 6 inches of water in there. So we don't want those properties to sit. We want to get the properties leased and get you money coming in. So that's how we align ourselves with reducing the vacancy. One thing with setting the lease price. So the screening, we're still doing that. We're leasing properties under 30 days. We have our guarantee. We also set the rent price. And we have found that when we set the rent price, right now, currently, we're leasing properties in 22 days. We used to let owners dictate some of the rent price. And then what we realized is properties weren't leasing for an average of 52 days. I pulled all this data together last year. So we are leasing properties in half the time. And that's why we say, hey, let us set the rent price. We'll handle that. We'll get it leased faster at a higher price and reduce this vacancy and get you more money coming in. So that's a big thing, Darren. We're aligned with wanting to get that property leased as quickly as possible at the highest price possible and to the best tenant possible.
Now,
and
not to interrupt you, but you had thrown out a stat when we were talking a couple of weeks ago. What is your average tenant length? I mean, again, we don't want somebody to just in there 12 months and somebody in the next 12 months and the next 12 months. So what is your average across your book of business? What was your average? Because I was like shocked.
Yeah, it's 3 to 4 years. So we average, our length of tenancy on average is 3 to 4 years. Now, we do have some owners that will say, hey, can we do a two-year lease up front? And we never do a 2-year lease up front. And the reason for that being is if the tenant is not great, we do not want them for 2 years. So we have done two-year leases after that, depending upon what the tenant wants to do. But yeah, our average length of tenancy is 3 to 4 years. And this year, we're boosting over an 80% renewal rate with our tenants.
Wow. Yeah, I remember in one of the videos that you do on your channel, you kind of held up the little whiteboard, and I think you said the magic number for increasing rents to keep that tenant there. What was it? Was it 1% or 2%?
2%.
2%.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we used to leave it off the lease, and we would try to come in and say, okay, hey, we're going to raise your rent $100 or $50 or whatever it was. But then the tenant would think, now it's a negotiation. They would go, okay, hey, now we want $25 or we're going to do $75. What we've done is we put it in the lease and we say, hey, when they sign that lease, it says there will be a 2% increase for a year lease. We have not had one tenant push back, not one.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. I thought that was a really great story, just from the standpoint that you keep that tenant there, you reduce your turnover cost, and you're going in there and doing your annual inspections, like you said, so the property's being kept up at that point. So again, lowering that risk of that property being unmanageable, I guess, at some point, or unrentable at some point. So
exactly, Darren. We do our annual inspection, which is included in everything. That's not an owner expense. And I should mention that all those move in, move out inspections and stuff, that's not an owner expense. That's an Emerson expense. So the owner never sees that cost. We pay that third-party company directly. But one other thing that I found that I was kind of shocked at, Darren, is we realized from other owners we're getting, from other management companies, that some management companies do not list on the MLS. So they try to list on Zillow or some of these other websites to not pay the other agent, to not pay the tenant's agents. So they're trying to save that commission. So you'll see sometimes people go 25%, lease fee or 50% lease fee And what they're doing is they're literally not exposing your property to the market. So Darren, you can imagine like trying to buy and sell and going, the exposure that you get on the MLS, if you reduce that, you're going to have a much longer vacancy period. So we do not do that. We're licensed agents, like Darren mentioned, we're licensed in Texas. And, that's something that, something you wouldn't even know to ask, as an owner. So that's something that's come to light that a lot of, multinational or multi-state companies try to do to save on the commissions, because some of them aren't licensed. They're not licensed agents. So that's another big risk that some of the owners need to be cognizant of.
Well, yeah, I mean, putting your rental on the MLS is, I mean, hard.com, our local MLS, it's the number one used app over Zillow. Zillow's number one in the rest of the US and the world, probably, as far as people using it. But in Houston, people use hard.com. And if you're not on the MLS, you're hurting. I've talked to other agents around the country, like Idaho and North Carolina and some other agents, and they don't even do rentals. They don't even have them on the MLS. So, again, we have that massive exposure here, which again is going to help for that turnaround. And you guys being licensed on that end from the broker standpoint, you guys are listing the properties, and that's great. Because again, I like the repair reduction. I like the rent increases automatically, and I like lowering the liability. So again, as an investor, I know at some point Uncle Sam is going to be calling. So from a book, again, we're trying to make this a turnkey approach, so that at the end, what do you provide to that landlord at the end of the year to say, okay, this is what you're going to need for your taxes, or this is the portal, this is where you can go to do this. I mean, obviously they've been getting the checks each month and everything, but how does that work from your side, helping that owner get what they need when they need to get with their accountant and do their taxes?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's another benefit of working with a property, at least with us. I can't speak for all the property management companies, but we have that 24/7 owner portal that I was talking about. You can get on there anytime and you can check all their maintenance requests, any sort of receipt and invoice. I'm a firm believer, and we do not get kickbacks at the end of the year from these vendors. We get good prices because we give some of these guys 20, 50, $100,000 a year worth of business. So we push those bulk discounts back to the owner. So we do not get any kickbacks. They don't send me to Cabo to go on a fishing trip at all. I don't even like taking time off to begin with. So I don't get any of those, kickbacks. And we pass all those on to you. You'll see all those invoices. You get your monthly owner statements. So about the 15th of the month, we reconcile all the books for you. We send you your monthly statement. If you want to, you can spend 5 or 10 minutes reviewing that, and you'll know everything you need to know about what's going on with the property. We submit your 1099 for you at the end of the year. And at the end of the year, we'll send you a little link, and you just go on. We'll walk you exactly through how to do it. You go on your portal, you click a few buttons, and you can download into a spreadsheet all your transactions for the year. And we already itemize them for you per the IRS guidelines. So it takes 5 minutes, and you'll get your 1099 from us to take all this and send it over to your accountant or bookkeeper or whoever you want to have look at it. And then you can file your taxes on that. So we handle that whole side for you as well. There's no additional cost for that. There's no additional fees. We do that throughout the year. So if you ever want to, I don't know, some people do a quarterly meeting or a semi-annual meeting with investors or with their accountants, and you can download that anytime you want. But we'll send that everything to you and your 1099 at the end of the year. So, we handle all of that. What the difference between what's a maintenance or what's a repair that you can deduct this year versus what's an improvement, and your accountant might differ on some of that, but we'll at least throw it out there, and then he or she can adjust it.
That really is awesome, because from my standpoint, I would know what is deductible, what's not. I mean, my accountant might, but if I don't have the proper paperwork or whatever I need to provide to him, he's going to say, well, I can't use it unless I have this. So the fact that you're keeping track of all of that again is awesome. Again, that's why I picked y'all, because again, every time we get together, I learn something new. And, if anybody, I've already called my past clients that have management companies. And I've already told them, I said, okay, when your contract comes up, you need to be switching over to Cameron. Okay. Cause it's just one of those things where I hear complaints from them, but they're kind of like, what's a better property management company? And before I met you, which I think I've followed you on YouTube since like 2019, before I finally reached out to you. But when I did, it was like the things you were sharing with me, I've never heard on some of these things. I mean, the other companies say they do that, but sometimes my landlords can't get a hold of them for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's crazy, Darren. And it's, that we don't have, we're not like I said, not multi-state. You're not going to get routed to the Philippines or Mexico to talk to somebody. You have one point of contact at Emerson, one point of contact. So you're not, you have a problem, you talk to your executive property manager. You don't have to talk to some maintenance tech in Mexico or wherever. And we're very, yeah, we boast a very solid Google review. We have great reviews, great reputation, and we take a lot of pride in that. But I'll mention one other thing. You talked about clients with a current management company will actually pay the if there are any cancellation penalties. So that there's two things there. One, we go month to month. So our agreements are month to month. So if whatever reason an owner's not satisfied with us, they just give us 30 days notice. There's no onboard fee and there's no termination fee. So we believe in earning your business every month. And then the second thing is we offer a property management transfer guarantee. So if you want to come over to Emerson and you've got a contract and there's some termination fees, we will pay those for you to get you over, because we believe, and it's as corny as it sounds, Darren, it's so true. We would be doing you a disservice if we don't manage your properties. And that's how strongly I believe in that, because we've had people who have worked at 4 or 5 different companies and they can't believe what we're doing here. I mean, all the stuff, all the KPIs we track, and we just take a lot of pride in that because we don't do anything else. This is all we focus on. You get the properties, Darren, you help people find them. And then when they're ready to sell and cash out on that huge cash cow they had, you help them with that. Between then, we'll handle everything.
And that's what I want you to do.
Yeah.
And not only handle it for me, but handling it for those investors. Now, I know we talked about repairs, and I know you had shared something with me about how we have a reserve account to handle those things up to a certain amount. Tell anybody that comes through the Up Investor Network, we'll call it the Up and Up discount. How's that sound?
I like it.
What are they going to get by coming through us and using our turnkey approach, which includes Emerson Property Management? What are you going to do for them right up front?
Darren, so just like Darren's been saying, he's been saying great things about us. I have nothing but great things to say about Darren. And we typically offer a referral fee to agents, but Darren is so gracious in what he's doing and believes so strongly in what we want to build and helping you create wealth that he doesn't even want that. He doesn't even want the fee. He wants to pass that back to you guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to put $500 into your reserve account, which is what we typically use for maintenance and repairs. We're going to basically put that in there for you for free. So we're going to give you $500 just for signing up.
Awesome.
Free money.
Yeah, free money. Say, we'll take the free money. We'll take the free money.
And that stays with you, whether it's 1 month, you're with us 1 month, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years. That's your money. There's no strings attached to that. I just want to make that clear, Darren. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no. I totally understand that. But now we've got investors that are coming in from outside of Texas. Okay. And we know, living here in Texas, what property taxes are like, unlike anywhere else in the country. So a lot of times, the investors, again, it's an investment property. They're paying cash for the property right up front. They're not having to escrow taxes or anything like that. And then the end of the year comes, and boom, they're hit with this huge tax bill. You've agreed to partner with us and set up basically an escrow account to take that out of the monthly rent. So we're ready to go ahead and just pay those taxes directly to the county at the end of the year when they're due, almost kind of like would be in a situation of a mortgage. So can you kind of expand on that, how we're going to be, again, providing an additional service to our investors?
Yes, absolutely. So exactly. Like you said, Darren, some states and municipalities do things a little differently with property taxes, but in Texas, they are assessed, your property is assessed every year. So your taxes aren't going to be the same for, year to year. And obviously they've gone up. We've had a lot of great appreciation, but we'll take that burden on for you. So we'll make sure that we get your county and city MUD. Some people probably don't even know what a MUD is, your municipal utility district. We have MUDs here. So you do have high property taxes. we'll hold back that money and pay that for you. So you don't even have to worry about going on to your finding the proper county and city mud to make sure those are paid. We'll handle all that for you.
That's a big deal, especially for the ones that are outside of Texas, even the ones that live here in Texas. We're kind of like, where do I pay that? Sometimes the school tax is included with the county bill. Sometimes it's not, depending on your location in the district. So it's great that you'll do that, because again, our whole approach is to make this turnkey for any investor. So again, basically they're just going on your portal, maybe 20, 30 minutes a month if they want to look at it, because the checks are going to just automatically be direct deposited into their account of their choice. So at that point, we want to make it turnkey, hands off, so the cash flow is there.
Correct, Darren. There's no, we have owners that have never stepped foot in the property. They look at, maybe they get online and look at their inspections that we publish, those 200, 300, photo reports that we talked about. And then look at your monthly statement. Now, we average 2 to 3 maintenance requests per year per property. Obviously, if you've got an older property, you might have more. Newer properties probably have less. But your statement is very, very simple. I mean, barring a bunch of issues, it's going to be super simple, super easy, and you'll know about what you're getting every month. And like Darren said, 20, 30 minutes would be a lot for most of our owners. I would say 10 to 15 minutes. You can always use that report to ask any questions and then log onto your portal. It's just super simple. We want to make that simple. We're in the business of doing this. You're in the business of building wealth, and bookkeeping and uploading receipts is not the best use of your time. That's what we'll do.
Now, if you are already receiving our profit package, then you're already one step ahead. And this video is just giving you more information of how we've really truly made this a hands-off turnkey approach. We've got state licensed professionals handling this every step of the way. So we reduce your liability, we reduce your risk, but we increase your profits. That's what we're here to do. We're not here to make a buck on your management fees or any of that other stuff that Cameron talked about. We're passing a lot of the cost through. We just want to give you the best service possible in order to bring that in. So if you're receiving the profit package, great. Now, if you're not receiving it, that means you and I have not had a call. You and I have not jumped on Zoom or on the phone to talk about what are your investment goals. Does your investment goals fit into our business model? If they do, great, we can work together. If they don't, there's no harm done. But you're not going to know unless you reach out and talk to me personally. So we've got some incentives for you to come into this, just getting you set up with the management company. Cameron shared a few of those with you. And we just want to make it, like I said, and Cameron shared, as easy as possible, as hands-off as possible. And I think what we've put together here, you'll find out that it truly is that. So reach out if you got any questions. Cameron, thank you for taking the time. Again, you've provided us so much information. I've written more notes down. I've learned more today. So any last words that you would like to share with us?
Oh, Darren, I appreciate you putting this together. I think it's a huge benefit. I think that there are a lot of bad management companies out there. And I think that, partnering is just a fantastic idea. There are a lot of bad agents out there as well, Darren, as you're well aware. So I love the fact that we can get together and you take care of. I know that when we get the property, it's going to be great. And then, when you go to sell this property for the owners that, they're being taken care of on that side as well. So it's just, I'm very happy with it. If anybody has any questions, obviously, Darren, you'll handle that, and then let me know if there's anything I can do to help. But, I'm really excited about this opportunity. I think a lot of the owners are going to find that if they do come over, why would they ever leave? We just don't have owners leave.
And that's what we want. That's what we want. So, and we want them to invest in multiple properties. And I think once they get to experience what we have, they'll be there. So again, reach out to me directly. We can get you started. We can get you start receiving the profit packets. And we look forward to hearing from you soon.